I'm going to do a standalone video on tying a couple of my egg patterns. I'm going to do a nuclear roe bug, and I'm going to do another pattern that we've started using the last few years we call egg beaters. These two patterns are basically what I use for egg flies. I'm going to kind of go through them, show you the materials, and talk to you through how I tie these flies, and maybe a little bit about how I fish them. They're basically egg flies, so we drift them, but I'll chat about this as we go through the video. Alright, we're going to tie a nuclear roe bug here. Before we get going, what I want to do is give Regal Engineering and Don Barnes a quick shout out. We're tying on a Regal vise, and he's been a great supporter, and I just want to say thank you to Don and Regal Engineering for their wonderful vices and his support. Whenever I needed something, Don has always been there. He's a great, that and Regal builds an amazing vise. Alright, let's get back to tying this fly. I got my sample fly nuclear roe bug in here. First thing I want to do is on the materials. We can tie a lot of different colors from, as you can tell, these are the three main colors: Oregon cheese, chartreuse, and orange is what I like to use. I keep my egg fly box really simple. I don't go too overboard. And then, of course, this fly has a Vail on it. As you can see, any color is good as long as you're using white, because it's a good universal color. So that's the color I use. The thread here is a Danville flat wax nylon. Works perfect for this because we do some dubbing, and this heavier wax nylon is really durable and actually helps. Here again, I use white because it's universal color, and I don't have to keep changing my thread colors when I change my body colors, so that keeps that simple. You'll find as you start following my YouTube channel, I'm a big fan of, especially with egg flies, keeping it simple. Hooks. This is the 1530. This is a size 8. We're going to use this is as big as I tie them. So we're going to tie them big today so you can see them easy on the camera. The 1530 is a standard wet fly hook, but it's a 2x heavy. It's a good heavy fish hook, and we've landed fish 25-30 pounds on this hook, so it can take some and handle some big fish. All right, let's move on and let's tie the fly. I'll get my sample fly out, and let's put a empty hook in there. A clean hook, not empty. Empty is when you don't have a fish on it. And with the flat wax nylon, we're just going to make a coating. Like I said, I do kind of a sloppy job of spiral wrap or butt wrap in a real tight spiral wrap. And what I got here is a whole bunch of leftover globug yarn from cutting globugs. So I'm going to just use the scrap. It's a great way to repurpose your scrap. Got a little chunk in here. Pull it out. This body is dubbed, so this is going to take a little bit of practice. If you're not used to dubbing, this stuff is kind of coarse. It's not the funnest stuff to work with until you get practice with it. But here again, I get it on a nice thin little wafer. Kind of got it kind of pulled out a little bit so it's easy to work with. And we'll just dub it right onto this stuff. One of the reasons why we're using this flat wax Danville stuff is it'll grab onto it. And a little bit of practice, you know about how much you need. Don't get too excited if it's not a perfect dub job. Just get it on there. Remember, these are soft, chewy flies. You don't want a tight body on these things at all. In fact, this is about as tight as you can do. If your body is really fuzzy and it's out of control, just take some spiral wraps down and back and gently pack it. The advantage of running white is a neutral color, so it's not going to stand out. If you go to a chartreuse or an orange, the white always blends in. Now, this fly has a Vail, and for the Vail, I'm using this white globug yarn. It's a good neutral color. It makes a great Vail for whatever color you're using. It's just perfect. Now, I take off about a chunk here that I've cut. That's about a little over twice the length, probably 2.5 lengths of the fly I'm tying. That gives me enough room to work with. I figure for proportion wise, I want to get about 6 flies out of this piece. I've already pulled 1 fly out of here, so that means I should be able to get a few more out of there. Just kind of eyeball it spread it out, make a nice flat kind of a sheet. I always call them wafers, I don't know why. And then lay it over the top, and you want half off the back of the fly and the other half off the front, and you can see it just kind of folded over, come up, catch it with a loose loop or two, pull down on it, that kind of wraps it around. I've gone a little tight to the eye, a little tight to the body, thread it back towards the body, spread it out a little bit, fold it over the back, wiggle it back and forth a little bit, and then I'll start from the eye, and I just come back a few turns, come up with the whip finish tool. I get a half a dozen turns. Now, the wax in this thread, when I pull this down, it'll actually kind of heat up and melt itself in, so I don't have to use head cement. These heads will not come apart. Cut it. Now, the Vail, I come back, I just kind of pull on the Vail, take the scissors, slide right behind the bend of the hook, one sharp cut, and I've got my nuclear roebuck. With a little bit of practice, you can crank a dozen of these things out by the time you're drinking your morning coffee. So they produce really fast. I don't get too overly concerned about it. As long as the bodies ain't too tight or too fat, they're going to fish good. The whole idea with the Vail and the soft chewy body on these roebucks is very often, especially brown trout are notorious for this. They'll suck this fly and decide it's not what they want and spit it out, and you'll never know it. So the soft body on this, the Vail on it, actually kind of hangs in their teeth, and we could be eating a sandwich and still have time to go back and set the hook. So it gets it a little bit harder for them to spit it out and gives us a fighting chance of getting the hook set on them. So this is the roebug. Like I said, I do it in just a few colors, and this is tied on at 8. I've done them down to 12s for the Great Lakes, but here for what we're doing, the 8s, I do fish a lot of 8s. So this is the nuclear roebuck. This is the second fly I want to show. It's basically a designed Estaz fly. You can see all this cute little bright colorful stuff. It was originally meant to be tied as a small fly with this with the petite Estaz, but we discovered that it also works very well large. But it's one of the patterns I use when I have in low water conditions, when I have to get a small fly in. I'll use this egg beater. That's what it was designed for. Was to use for low water conditions, really small flies chasing some pretty big fish. So this is the second fly. When you hear me refer to egg beaters, this is my variation of an Estaz fly and how I'll build it. All right, let's tie this fly. First thing is I'll get my sample fly out of the way and put the hook in I'm going to use. In this case, I'm using a different hook than I did for the nuclear roebug. This is a Daiichi 1120 size 8. It's basically a scud style hook, but it's a 2x heavy wire, so it's a really strong hook. We're going to tie them on 8s. I did mention I do tie these things down to 12s and 14s, and it was designed to be a small egg pattern, being tied as a small egg pattern. But for today we're going to do them on 8s, and I've had really good luck with the bigger flies, especially with Chinook, salmon, and mid-October, and even our early run steelhead just seemed to just jump all over them. For thread, my bobbin's getting a little thin, so I'll use this as a prop. This is uni thread. It's a fire orange 8/0, or excuse me 6/0, which works really good for tying. And we'll get started. I'm going to start right in the middle of this hook here and just tie the back end first. There's kind of two parts to this fly. Clip that off. I'm going to come in, and I'm working with some Midge Sparkle Fire Orange. It's kind of like a Midge Sparkle Diamond Braid. Anything small and sparkly. Diamond Braid variation works great. But this is just a Midge, so it's a real fine material that I'm going to use for the back half of the body. I'm almost trying to make a yoke appearance in this fly. So we'll just kind of come down. Oh, let's see. Now I'm right about the barb of the hook is where I'm going to stop, and come right back to the midpoint and just butt wrap this material. Going to work around the hook here a little bit. There we go. Go just slightly past the halfway mark. Tie it off. And here we go. As you saw in that wonderful handful of Estaz I had, the various colors that I used, but in this case right here, this color we're going to tie with today is kind of known as a burnt orange or butterscotch, and it's one of my favorite colors in November. They're starting to get a lot more bleached eggs in here, and it's still got a little bit of color of a fresh egg, so it's been a good color for us. But I'm going to tie in just as the thread here. A quick tip for working with Estaz. If you look at it, I don't know if I can get it on the camera here or not, but if you look at your Estaz, it'll either be all the little flashy plastics needs to be pointing this way, or they'll be pointing that way. And I like to have the tips pointing away from the eye of the hook. It makes a neater little fly. You don't want the thing standing up like a porcupine. Come in a couple turns. Whoops, missed it. There we go. Got that little string on here. And then I'm going to just butt wrap for an underbody forward with the thread. Now, the mistake everybody makes with Estaz also is they try to wrap them as tight as you can. No, do a poor job of butt wrapping. Think cheap. There's 3 turns, 4 turns. That's all I need. I want to have that underbody bleed through the Estaz. I found if you tie it too tight, it just doesn't work as well if you tie it loose. I'll let that get away from me. Get a couple turns in here and get it anchored down. And clean it up. Kind of get those little fibers back. Get the everything flied in there. Got a little slopping getting that tied in there. There. Now, going forward, we need to veil this too. Here we go. Some more of our beloved white globug yarn. Actually, this stuff is UV. I like UV. So we're going to use that for a veil. I always like to use white for a veil. Got to get a chunk here and cut it off here. Once again, I'm going to go probably about the same length I do with my Nicole Roe bugs. In this case, I'm going to probably be about at least 3 times the length of the fly. Globug yarn's cheap. We got lots of it. Here again, what's the proportion of my veil? I'm going to figure about 6 flies or out of a section of globug yarn. Pull off the veil, spread it out. Put it half, once again, half over the back, half over the front, fold it over, loose little wrap. There we go. Get it tied down, fold it back, and we'll just kind of secure this make a little larger head. Actually, I think that little orange, when we're tying down there, this has got a pretty good head on it. Actually helps with that illusion of a yoke. A few turns of the whip finish tool. Sometimes I do head cement these, sometimes I don't, depending on how I feel. I'm pulling back on the yarn, come right behind the bend of the hook, 1 cut, and there's our egg beater. Pretty simple. Colors, as I showed you here, chartreuse, the chartreuse, the pink, the orange. These are the primary colors I use, along with this butterscotch or burnt orange. So basically, this is the egg beater right here, and I will tie these things down to 12, sometimes 14s, for the real small water, skinny water, crabby fish. So this is the second fly I'm doing here today. This is the egg beater. These are my 2 primary egg patterns. Well, that'll wrap up the egg fly tie-in video. What I just showed was the 2 styles of egg patterns that I use. I'm more interested in keeping my eggs patterns very simple, because eggs are a very simple thing we're trying to imitate. And I don't get overly carried away with it, because what I have learned is that it ain't the fancy egg pattern makes a difference, it's the presentation that makes the difference, how we fish that fly. So I keep my egg patterns very simple, I keep my egg box very simple, and then I worry about our presentation. The colors I showed you, not very many different colors, because I don't think it matters, it's just fish them right. So that's where I am right now with my egg flies. Going forward, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop us an email. Our email is fish@LostRiversFishing. So just give us a quick email, ask your questions, be happy to respond to you. When we get a chance, we are on the water a lot right now. We are kind of wrapping up our guide season, so we're still got a lot more days scheduled on the water, so we're a little slow on responding at the moment. Once again, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, contact us, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we got more coming. Thanks for watching, folks. This is Jay at JPEG Guides and Lost River Fishing. We are a year-round fly fishing catch and release guide service. We fish the Lake Ontario tributaries, and then during the spring and the summer we also fish the inland trout streams, classic dry fly fishing. During the heat of the summer we will do the warm water fishing for bass and pike. If you're interested in any of our outings or have any questions, please feel free to email us at fish@lostriversfishing.com. Hope to hear from you, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact us.